tayong ilang teachers na bahagyang nasugatan dahil po dito sa lindol na ito. So yan po yung ginagawa natin ngayon, making sure na safe muna ang ating mga mag-aaral, ang ating mga kawani. And we are also employing what we call as the psychological first aid. Dahil alam natin, Ray, pagka ganito, yung mga bata very vulnerable sa trauma. So yan po muna yung gusto nating gawin in cooperation and collaboration with DSWD.
So let me just go back to that, Yusek Garma. May naitala po tayong isang estudyanteng nasawi. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tama po ba yun?
Opo, meron po. Pero I think may protocol po tayo, Ray, na hindi natin pwedeng ibigay yung identity nitong casualty natin.
Okay. Alright. Pero bukod doon, wala na po yung school buildings po natin na kamusta po? Pwede na ba itong meron bang pwede bang magamit yung iba dito o totally talagang wala po munang magagamit sa mga darating na linggo?
Importante, Ray, yung clearance, no, coming from the building officials. So definitely yung mga reported na merong damages, hindi muna yan gagamitin pending inspection and of course yung clearance ng ating mga building officials. So for the safety of our children, wag muna nating paggamit itong mga ito at gamitin muna yung mga nakita na natin na hindi naman na damage, no.
So doon po sa mga lugar o regions o mga school districts or divisions sa talagang hindi magamit yung mga parang how does DepEd plan to continue itong education ng mga kabataan natin?
Well, automatic naman yan, Ray, yung ating tinatawag na alternative delivery modalities natin, no? So, medyo home-based muna tayo or community-based, or kung merong mga bata na nasa mga evacuation centers, baka doon natin susundan para tuloy-tuloy yung pag-aaral nila. Pero sa ngayon, Ray, tignan muna natin yung sitwasyon kasi ang importante ngayon ay makarecover muna emotionally itong mga mag-aaral natin.
Ayun, okay, sige po. And with that, ano po bang plano ngayon? Saan po ang tungo nyo ngayon? Yusek Garma, kasama ng iba pa natin mga DepEd officials.
Yung team natin nandun na, Ray, pero ako po ay nandito ngayon sa Manila at a-attend po dito sa isang meeting sa Philippine Sports Commission.
Ayun, okay. So, alright. So sa ngayon po itong mga ito namang tututok naman ako po Yusek Garma sa mga guro natin. So ano yung may financial assistance ba na pwedeng ibigay ng DepEd para sa ating mga teachers na direktang naapektuhan ng nasabing lindol?
Wala po tayong direktang pondo, no, para po sa financial assistance, bagamat we are coordinating closely with yung mga government financial institutions natin like GSIS, nang sa ganon ay baka magkaroon ng tinatawag nila na special loan, no, or special program or special financial assistance, lalong-lalo na, Ray, yung mga nasiraan ng bahay, no, yung mga damage sa mga bahay nila. So at first, and I think Pag-ibig probably could also step in to be able to provide the necessary assistance to our teachers.
Alright. With that, Yusek Garma, maraming salamat po sa oras sa pinagkaloob niyo sa ating programa. Thank you.
Ray, bago tayo magpaalam, samantalahin ko lang, bigyan niyo ako ng pagkakataon na iparating din ng ating kalihim, Secretary Sani Angara, yung pasasalamat niya doon sa mga teachers natin, Ray. Nakita natin sa mga video na during the actual ground shaking, hindi iniwanan ng mga guro natin, yung mga mag-aaral. Pinakalma nila at siniguro na ligtas o nasa ligtas na lugar yung ating mga mag-aaral. Yung iba, Ray, nakita mo naman na niyayakap pa nila at talagang pinoproteksyonan. So dito natin makikita kung gaano yung commitment, no, and dedication at yung puso ng ating mga guro para sa kanilang mga mag-aaral. So maraming salamat at saludo tayo sa mga teachers natin, Ray, at yan ang gusto ipabot ng ating secretary.
Yusek Garma, ito ba yung resulta ng regular na pagsasagawa ng mga earthquake drill sa ating mga paaralan?
Oo, Ray. I think nagpe-pay off na, Ray, yung ating minsan hindi siniseryoso pero ngayon nakita natin na napaka-useful pala, Ray, ng drills natin, no? At nakita natin na nagiging automatic sa mga bata kapag palagian nating ginagawa ito. So nakita natin na maayos, hindi nagkagulo, hindi nagtakbuhan ang ating mga mag-aaral. At mabuti na lang, pasalamat tayo, Ray, dahil flag ceremony nung nangyari yung lindol at nasa labas pa sila ng mga gusali.
Alright. With that, Yusek Garma, maraming salamat po sa oras na pinagkaloob nyo sa amin.
Maraming salamat din, Ray, sa pagkakataon.
Ang ating pong Undersecretary Malcolm S. Garma ng Department of Education. Kami po yung magbabalik makalipas ang ilang paalala.
Matagal nang mailap ang internet sa maraming lugar. May mga gurong handang magturo, mga batang puno ng pangarap. Ngunit kulang sa internet connection. Kaya sa utos ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr., kumilos ang Department of Information and Communications Technology at ang Department of Education para magkaroon ng internet ang mga paaralan sa mga liblib na lugar. Noong nakaraang linggo, dinayo ng Pangulo ang Island School sa Binuangan Elementary School sa Ubando, Bulacan para tingnan ang estado ng koneksyon. Nakita ng Pangulo, maayos na ang internet. May laptop at tablets na ngayon na dati mahirap makarating sa mga isla at liblib na komunidad.
Ang buong budget ng DepEd na napapakinabangan ho ng lahat ng stakeholders mula Batanes hanggang Tawi-Tawi.
Maging mga paaralan sa Basilan, dinayo ng DICT at unti-unting nagka-internet ngayon.
Kasama po namin si Secretary Henry po.
Si Sec. Asan na si Emis mo yata nagkakabit eh.
I'm Mr. President, Secretary. In Basilan, 189 schools na binigay sa aming assignment ni Seksani, 172 na yung nakakabit.
Dahil ang internet sa mga paaralan ay hindi lang basta signal, isa itong tulay para mas mapalapit ang kaalaman sa bawat silid-aralan. At sa bawat paaralang nakokonekta, may mga batang mas nabibigyan ng pag-asa.
Magkaroon lahat ng estudyante, magkaroon lahat ng guro ng kanilang kinakailangan na equipment at para maging mas maganda at mas maayos ang sistema natin sa pagtuturo.
Sa buong bansa, tuloy-tuloy ang trabaho. Isa-isang inaayos sa mga bagay na magpapagaan sa buhay ng ating mga kababayan. Para ang edukasyon ay mas maging abot kamay ng bawat batang Pilipino, anumang isla o lalawigan sa bansa.
Global na tayo! Global na tayo! Kasama si Ray Sampar dito sa Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Alright, matapos po nating makapanayam si Undersecretary Malcolm S. Garma ng Department of Education sa kanilang assessment at pag-task assessment at ika nga patuloy na pagmomonitor dito po sa mga rehiyon na tinamaan ng lindol sa Southern Mindanao including Region 11 and Region 12. Nakakapanlumo na marinig na meron tayong isang estudyanteng namatay sanhi po ng lindol at may mga guro rin tayong lubang nasugatan. Well, pero siyempre hindi rin natin matatawaran, hats off tayo tulad nga ng sinabi ni Yusek Garma sa ating mga guro nung mga panahong iyon na tumamay napakalakas na lindol. Sapagkat sa kabila po ng sarili nilang takot, pangamba, nervyos, hindi po nila iniwanan ang kanilang trabaho, ang kanilang propesyon, ang kanilang pagmamahal sa kanilang mga estudyante. Talagang they stood beside them, protected them, guided them as much as they can para po mailigtas ang buhay ng ating mga kabataang mag-aaral. Pero siyempre, alamin naman natin ano ba ang dapat gawin? Although dun sa mga narinig natin lagi kapag meron tayong mga earthquake drills, duck, hold and cover. Pero bukod diyan, ano pang dapat na mindset ng isang individual? Kay bata ka man o sabihin lalo na sa mga bata, adult o matanda. At ano ba ang dapat na sinisiguro ng isang government official o ng ating mga kababayan? Lalo na tayo, mga ordinaryong Pilipino, nakatira tayo sa ating mga sariling tahanan. How can we be sure na yung ating bahay is structurally sound para labanan o mag-withstand ng isang lindol? Alamin natin yan mula po sa ating co-founder at CEO ng Crisis Ops, Safety and Assistance for Emergency o SAFE, co-founder, walang iba kundi si Ginoong Jason Keith V. Bonyaga. Jason, good morning at welcome back sa Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
kamusta po ulit, sir? Good morning. It's really a pleasure to be part of the show again, despite these troubling times. I'm glad that we're here to talk about this issue,
Mm.
especially that most of the time it's a sensitive topic
Mm.
because when it happens, we often look for information or guidance with our leadership and the people that we live around with
Mm.
to see how we can make sense of things like this that happens.
Alright. Jason, siguro itong tanong ko muna is a very general question, yung first question ko. Alam ko naka-monitor ka naman sa mga nangyari. I know you were monitoring the incident, the earthquake
Mhm.
last Monday. Last Monday. And I know you saw how people reacted, how they moved, and how the buildings were affected by the earthquake. In your assessment as the co-founder, bilang assessment mo bilang co-founder at CEO ng Crisis Ops Safety and Assistance for Emergencies, how would you rate or how would you describe the reaction of the public? And of course, how would you rate the resiliency of the buildings, kung paano tumayo itong mga buildings na ito at paano nila inabsorb yung earthquake? How would you describe and rate them, Jason?
In my professional opinion po, being part of this space for more than 10 years po and having been on the ground, having actually been part of the Nepal earthquake response back in 2015, because it's a very similar event po na 7.5 plus sa Richter scale yung sa scale po natin, 'di ba, sa yung earthquake. Makikita po natin talaga na we are only as prepared by those who are most vulnerable. We are only as prepared as our most vulnerable.
Mhm.
Ang ibig ko pong sabihin na to ay when we look at how people respond, they only respond at the level of their proficiency or training because it's not an event that we train for all the time. We don't we talk about earthquakes, we do our duck cover and hold from time to time. We don't really take it into a heart and in the context of how other countries are doing it, like especially like in Japan. In Japan, just last month we visited the great earthquake in the Kansai prefecture in Osaka, and then one of the things that they were talking about for effective disaster management was the way they look at earthquakes. The way they look at earthquakes, they see it as the baseline to prepare for rather than something that is after the fact. And I think it really would start on how we look at it, on how we see each earthquake that happens all the time. We know that in the area where the earthquake happened, it is not something that we can say like typhoon na hindi nangyayari pa ito. It's a constant reminder that Mother Nature, when it moves, when it shakes, it leaves destruction in its wake. And it's very important that the way we look at it now is that we measure our resilience against how we always prepare better or bounce back forward better at every incident that this happens. So in this context, I wouldn't say na, it's not about passing the blame or it's not about passing who's at fault, but at the end of the day is how do we really keep preparing and how do we keep moving forward when these things happen? How do we train better? How do we prepare better? And the most important aspect is how do we communicate better? How destructive earthquakes are, especially when there's almost zero warning. When it happens, you only have seconds to respond to put yourself in a safe space, and the next thing you know, the building that you might be in, even when you're sleeping, the incident or this type of destruction can happen anytime.
Alright, so you mentioned na dapat alam natin ang ginagawa natin, aware tayo sa kapaligiran, and there's just a few seconds or few minutes to react. Dahil sabi nga nila Jason, kahit na anong siyensya at galing ng technology natin ngayon, there's still no proven scientific method of predicting an earthquake or where and when will it strike. So sa Crisis Ops Safety and Assistance for Emergencies, how do you prepare how do you train and prepare people to react or prepare sa mga ganitong klase ng sitwasyon?
So sa atin po in the Philippines, one of the natin paradigm is drop, cover and hold on, 'di ba po? They tell us that when an earthquake happens, you hide under a desk, you put your hands over your head, and so on. And we always talk about how to really enhance it from there. So as a technology company, what we concentrate on is how do we prepare before the incident, which are the things that we prepare for, which the things that we normally talk about, which is our standard go bag. We talk about something called PACE. PACE is a communication plan in emergency response. PACE stands for primary, alternative, contingency, and emergency. In this context, we talk about what is your primary source of communication, what's your alternative when the primary fails, what happens when primary and alternative fails, your contingency, and what's your emergency. So in this context, we always talk about, preparation in the family level, on the family level, when we say that the kids in school, when they talk about earthquake, we tell them that this is something you should share with your family. You should communicate what would happen if you were in school and the earthquake happens. How would you look for your parents, or how would your parents look for you? And secondly, when we do the drop, cover, and hold, we talk about what's the reason behind this? Why do we do this? And once you've done this, what are the next step? Why do we touch the wall when we're exiting a building? Why do we tell them to stay away from windows, cabinets, or even heavy objects? So these are foundational messaging and foundational education when it comes to dealing with earthquakes. It's not just telling them what to do. We also tell them why we're doing it a certain way, or why we need to understand why we need to do this in these different matters, so that children and adults can understand, why we do things a certain way. And our hope is that even if we do drills, even if we do simulations, that when the time comes, if the incident happens, when an earthquake happens, there is a semblance of being able to perform what they've been learning, as opposed to being in shock or being in a panic mode. There's that semblance that, that split second, the couple of seconds after earthquake happens, you would be able to compose yourself and go like, I know what to do. And that's really what we can hope for in this scenario, because the only way for us to really prepare at the end of the day is if we were training every single day, every single hour, turn it into muscle memory. But we live in a world where we have things that we do on our day-to-day lives. So we do what we can whenever we talk about advocacy for earthquake preparedness, and how we can prepare not only on the, for adults, but all the way to the family level, even in schools, even in, at home, and turning it into some sort of a homework or an activity that the whole family can participate in.
All right. Now, let me puntahan ko dito sa structural integrities ng mga buildings. Sa inyo ba, sa crisis ops, do you also evaluate or check and, let's say, give training on how to assess the integrity of a building?
That's a good question po, sir. As we're a systems integrator, we put together different information into the platform, so we can see and analyze what can happen and what will happen based on these available information. And the only way for that to happen is, it's what the tech can do. Technology, us, really is to help by organizing the chaos. But at the same time, the technology is not usable if there's nothing to latch on. So what I mean by that is, in order for us to observe buildings in terms of the resilience, is it following the law when it comes to the building code, that it has some sort of sensor for seismic activity, especially for high risk area. Great example is what's going on all over NCR, where it's mandated for buildings to have seismic seismic sensors for responders and for those building personnel to see after an earthquake what happens, if it's safe enough to move back in, or if the building's in trouble right after an earthquake when people need to leave. So these are some ways for us to do that. But technology can only help if we have a way to measure it in the context of how buildings are also built.
All right. Now, if a building is collapsed, nag-collapse na yung building, Jason. And of course, people are trapped. Let's say there's a scenario that people are trapped in the building. And of course, a hopeful scenario, there's still survivors underneath the rubble. Ano ang advice na maibibigay mo na dapat gawin ng mga taong na-trap sa isang collapsed building sanhi ng isang lindol?
One of the best advice I can give is, when it comes to learning from training and then having responded to situations like this, you have to remember that the first 72 hours is going to be very crucial for both of you and the responder. For you in the context as a person who is a victim, the first 72 hours means that you have to find a way to get some water or put yourself in a safe space where there's less debris. Stay away from visibly cracked walls. Just to wait for your help. Knock from time to time so people can hear you, because when responders are moving, there's also a science when it comes to doing urban search and rescue, especially in collapsed building structures. You can't just remove debris, because parang when we talk about it, it's like a domino, right? So once all of these debris fell into place, it's wedged from one on top of the other. There's that weight that's having that balancing act to not crush those that are not collapse in open spaces. So you are part of that open space. So what we tell people is that you have to be you don't panic. Look for a way to hydrate yourself, because most of us will survive with just water. And then secondly, find a way to, if your cell phone still works, if there's some signal, check for communication. If you can get some communication out, check yourself first for any injury. Hopefully you have access to an individual first aid kit in an area where you are trapped. And then basically, we ensure that you're going to survive somehow, because we're all, we tend to move differently in different situations. And unfortunately, we also have to understand that once these incidents happen, it's not something that responders cannot get to you as quickly as they would hope, because they are also in fear that if they move too quickly, they would collapse the structures even further and crush those that they're trying to save. As an example of that collapsed building in the up north this week because of construction failure.
Yes. Yes. And speaking of that collapsed building in, I think, Balibago, Angeles City, Pampanga. The structure, may nakita silang mga pagkakamali doon sa pagtatayo ng structure. And of course, yung mga manggagawa doon sa nag-collapse na building na sa Angeles City were having their quarters, I think, nearby or at least sa ilalim ng building. Sa experience mo as co-founder at CEO ng Crisis Ops, in your own personal opinion, ano dapat ang ginawa dito para maiwasan ang trahedyang ito dito naman sa Angeles City, Pampanga?
Based on what we know is that it really starts with compliance. We are only as good as if the compliant itself, both from those that are building and those who are expecting. So if we talk about it in that certain case, in that whole value proposition, when somebody does not do their job, they don't do it honestly, and they don't do it with the right procedures, then somewhere along the way, something will fail. And like what happened with Angeles, safety checks and things that were already raised as far as concerns contributed into that destructive scenario where It was unfortunate that people there were instances of casualties. So it really stems from both, not only from those who are doing the construction and also an inspector. It's really like kind of like nation building. It's really
Mm.
it's everyone's responsibility. Safety is everyone's responsibility, and our point is to be part of that process. So when everybody participates in that process, in that ensuring that safety is around and compliance around, then we are able to build things that are up to the standards that they are deemed seem fit for the area that they're being built at.
Okay, Jason, siguro sa last question ko na lang. If you were a part of the rescue operations during this crisis in Region 11 or in Region 12, uh, what advice would you give our local government units and the national government to make sure na safe ang gagawing rescue, that we can rescue as many as possible, alive if possible, in the most, sabi na nating, the most safest way and the most fastest way sa mga crisis na ganito, Jason?
For this, we have so many experts already. We have highly trained individuals who are very good at urban search and rescue, collapse structure. Even one of our advisors for disaster medicine response and emergency response, Dr. Ted Isguera, has been teaching this for a very long time. He talks about avoiding the triangle of life, how duck cover and hold is can actually save you, and at the same time, how do you prepare yourself both in a manner where it's applicable to you in terms of your personal responsibility, but at the same time, we also have to recognize that in this context, the government can only do so much, and this is why partnerships with those that where the government may need help in terms of coordinate better coordination of different data sets on how we can improve our response from all these different variables that are coming in. How do we filter through that noise? How can we use technology to provide insights in response? How do we make it more efficient? How do we make it faster? And how do we make it to the point that that the response side becomes the faster response side becomes the norm? And this is really how how the government can look at it in that context, because as many data sets, as many variables there are, we can only do so much when there's so much noise. And this is where working together with the private industry and non-government organizations can help the government in terms of responding faster. At the end of the day, private entities like us, crisis ops, NGOs, especially us as a technology integrator and as a technology platform that helps decision makers avoid that noise and sift through the different data to create that actionable insight. It really helps organizations like the government to work with individuals like us, so we can better help them in that context without telling them that there's only one way to do things. We're here to augment and we're here to work together with the government as a technology platform, so that when things happens like these situations, we can respond faster, better, and of course have clear, actionable communication and insights for the public to listen to and hold on to when seconds and when matter when seconds and hours matter the most during the onset of an incident.
Alright, with that, Jason, maraming salamat sa oras na pinagkaloob mo sa amin dito sa ating programa. And we appreciate your time for joining us today. Meron ka pa bang ibang mensahe na gustong iparating sa ating mga kababayan? Go ahead, Jason.
Yes po. We've initiated po our help for the government. We've already configured our platform, just like the OFWsafe.com, where people can check in and so we can help them if they're safe, need help, or they need urgent emergency. It's called Sarangani Earthquake 2026.crisisops.ai. They can follow our Facebook page, Crisis Ops, at Facebook, to all our social media, and they can see on how they can share this Facebook post so we can enhance the response of the government even farther to ensure that we can reach those that need their help. So with the platform, we are offering it to the government and those who are involved to share this post so people can check in and we can track the people that needs the help.
With that, Jason, maraming salamat. Thank you very much for your time and sharing us your expertise as co-founder and CEO of Crisis Ops Safety and Assistance for Emergency or SAFE. Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you very much po, sir. SAFE is just one of our part of our platform, and we're more than glad to talk more about it as time goes on. And we really appreciate for you having us into your program. And maraming salamat po sa Radyo Pilipinas World Service to always having us on board and talking about how technology can bridge the gap between response and decision making po.
Thank you
Maraming
very
salamat
much.
po ulit, sir.
Thank you very much at mabuhay ang Crisis Ops at Safety and Assistance for Emergency at SAFE. Magbabalik po kami makalipas ang ilang paalala.
Mabilis ang trivia, dagdag talino. Heto na ang Dagling Kaalaman.
Alam nyo ba, sa mga PhilHealth covered cases, mayroon ng zero balance billing o no balance billing. Paano ito gumagana? Simple lang. Magpa-admit sa ward ng DOH-accredited hospital. Ipakita ang PhilHealth ID o MDR, pati na rin ang government-issued ID at admission documents. Dumiretso sa PhilHealth Help Desk para sa verification at processing. At paglabas mo ng ospital, covered na ng PhilHealth ang room and board, doctor's fees, lab tests, operating room, at gamot mula sa pharmacy. Layunin nito ay mas pantay, abot kaya, at tuloy-tuloy na serbisyong pangkalusugan para sa lahat ng Pilipino.
Kaunting kaalaman na malaking dagdag talino. Abangan muli ang susunod na Dagling Kaalaman. Global na tayo. Global na tayo. Kasama si Ray Sampang. Dito sa Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Alright, nagbabalik po ang programang Global na tayo dito pa rin sa inyong himpilang radyo, Pilipinas World Service. Ako pa rin po inyong lingkod, Ray Sampang. Samahan nyo pa rin po kami sa kabuuan ng ating programa ngayong araw na ito. Kanina nakausap natin at nakapanayam si Undersecretary Malcolm S. Garma ng Department of Education sa kanilang assessment ng Department of Education sa mga public school buildings natin na ika nga po naapektuhan ng lindol sa southern region ng Mindanao, meaning region, lalo na Region 11 and Region 12. Ano po? At dito nga po nalaman natin sa panayam natin kay Yusek Garma na meron tayong isang estudyante mag-aaral na nasawi sanhi po ng sabing lindol. At napaka ika nga, it's a very sad news na meron tayong narinig na isang estudyante nasawi. Pero hindi rin po natin dapat tawaran, ulitin ko, hindi po natin dapat tawaran ang dedikasyon, profesionalismo at pagmamahal ng ating mga guro sa kanilang mga estudyante sapagkat sa likod po ng sila mismo, pinabalutan ng takot, nerbiyos, ano po, at iniisip din ang kapakanan at kaligtasan ng kanilang sariling mga pamilya. Talagang hindi po nila iniwanan ang kanilang serbisyo sa kanilang mga estudyante. You could see doon sa mga social media posts, both sa mainstream and social media posts, na sa likod ng takot, itong ating mga guro ay talagang nandoon upang gabayan, pahupain yung takot hanggat maaari ng ating mga estudyante, even placing also their lives at risk, no, sa pagguho ng mga buildings na yan dyan sa Regions 11 and Regions 12. At kanina nakausap din natin si Ginoong Jason Keith V. Bonyaga, ang co-founder at CEO ng Crisis Ops Safety and Assistance for Emergencies o SAFE. Dito nakita naman natin yung naging pagtasa nila at naging assessment nila sa naging reaksyon ng ating mga kababayan. Gayon na rin ang naging tugon ng mga iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno sa lindol at epekto ng lindol nitong Lunes, at gayon na rin yung mga nakikita nila based on their experience sa ibang bansa na kanilang naging part sila ng crisis rescue doon. Yung pong dapat na mindset at dapat planuhin gawin ng LGUs at ng national government para mas lalo tayong prepared sa mga ganitong klase ng sitwasyon. Like I said, there's still no science and scientific method or science na makapagsasabi precisely kung kailan tatama ang lindol, gaano ito kalakas at saan ito tatama. Hindi katulad po ng bagyo yan, no, na ang bagyo pwede nating ma-predict o pwedeng nakikita kagad, namumuo pa lang, na-monitor na, natatansya na kagad kung gaano ito kalakas at saan ang mga projection o saan ito patungo. Hindi po ganyan sa lindol, okay? Yan. So, pero syempre, bukod dito sa pagtutok natin sa epekto ng lindol sa Southern Luzon, meron din naman tayo mga magagandang kaganapan na pagtutuunan ng pansin. Syempre, ito pong pagtutuunan natin ng pansin dito sa ating bahagi ng ating programa ay may kinalaman sa Likhang Marino 2025 Business Plan Competition. At ito po ay sa panguna rin ng Department of Migrant Workers. At meron na po kasing na-declare na national winner para sa Likhang Marino 2025 Business Plan Competition. Magandang balita naman ito. And of course, ang national winner ay si Kenneth Kiersi Fernando. Yan. So alamin natin kung kamusta ang paano siya nanalo dito. Ano ba ang pinasok niyang entry dito? How was Kenneth able to win the 2025 Likhang Marino Business Plan Competition? So nasa linya na po natin ang ating national winner for the Likhang Marino 2025 Business Plan Competition, Kenneth Kiersi Fernando. Kenneth, magandang umaga.
Magandang umaga po. Good morning po sa lahat.
Ay, thank you, Ken, sa pagpapaunlak mo sa amin dito sa ating programa. So you are the 2025 Business Likhang Marino National Winner. Ano yung pinasok mong business plan na
salon business po. Salon business po,
Salon.
serving organic hair colorant and organic hair treatments.
Okay. Pero bago ako dumako diyan sa entry mo, kasi pag sinabi nating Likhang Marino, we are talking about seafarers. You are a
Yes.
You are a seafarer.
Yes po, I'm a seafarer po before in Royal Caribbean as assistant waiter po.
Okay. Sa sa cruise ship, ganun ba?
Yes po, sa cruise ship po.
Ayun, okay, sige. So, alright. Ito bang pagtatrabaho mo as dito sa cruise ship, naging background din ito sa pinasok mong business plan para manalo ka as national winner?
Yun po kasi, yung talent ko po kasi before is mahilig po ako mag-ayos ng mga buhok, marunong na rin po ako mag-haircuts. Then, nung nakapagtrabaho po ako on board sa barko, nagamit ko po yung aking skills para sa paggugupit, pag-hair treatment sa mga crew member doon, and sa kasawiang palad po, napauwi po ako as a medical repatriate. Then, yun po, after po noon, nalaman ko po yung Likhang Marino na meron palang competition para sa mga seafarers na returnees. Then, nag-ano po ako na try na sumali at ito po yung naisip kong business.
Okay. So, ulitin ko lang, ano yung entry mo? Salon, di ba?
Salon business po.
Salon business. Okay. So, anong particular na ikinapanalo ng iyong business plan? Kasi alam naman natin, marami namang mga salon
Yes
dyan,
po.
di ba? Kenneth, maraming salon sa Pilipinas. So, what makes your salon business proposal a winner? Ika nga.
Dito po kasi sa amin sa Nueva Ecija, wala pong salon na nagsiserve ng mga organic hair treatments and organic hair color. And then nag-focus po ako doon sa aking concept na yon na I am the one who first served here in Nueva Ecija ng organic salon. Kaya po siguro yun po yung naging advantage ko, and siguro po yung dahil sa matagal ko na rin siyang ginagawa,
Mhm.
at yun po yung naging advantage ko as a national winner.
Ayun. Pag sinabi nating organic, ibig sabihin nito walang halong chemical ito, 'di ba?
Yes po, yung hair color po is made from balat po siya ng puno na nanggagaling ng Dubai. It's called henna powder.
Henna powder?
Yes po.
Galing saan 'yan? Galing saan?
Middle East country po, sir.
Middle East. Wala dito sa Pilipinas.
Yes po. And meron po kaming suppliers and distributors lang na
Mhm.
pinagkukunan.
Okay. So hindi naman ba mahal 'yan? Mahal ba 'yan, Kenneth?
Sakto lang naman po, affordable.
Okay. Sige. So, when you use that, pwede mong gamitin 'yan sa hair coloring lahat?
Yes po, hair coloring po, and meron din pong mga hair treatments.
Okay. So kamusta naman? Kamusta naman ang business mo diyan sa
Ngayon po we're planning to expand para sa ibang branches kasi medyo maliit lang po itong pwesto ko ngayon, and
Mhm.
sa awa naman po ng Diyos, nag-click po yung aking salon business dito
'Yan.
sa Nueva Ecija,
Mhm.
at tinangkilik naman po ng mga mamamayan dito. Then ngayon po hindi na ma-accommodate ng aking pwesto yung
Sa dami, sa dami.
yung sa mga client kasi medyo maliit lang po itong pwesto.
Aha.
Ngayon po planning na po ako na magtingin ng
Wow. Expansion na 'yan,
expansion na
Expansion.
po. Yes po.
Okay. So, ibig sabihin, magkano naman, ano ba nakuha mo? Ano bang mga prices ang nakuha mo nung na-secure mo itong 2025 business plan?
Yun nga po, na sa national winner po kasi you will receive 500,000 pesos.
Mhm.
Then if you once po kasi na pumasok po kayo sa top 12 finalists, win or lose po kasi may makukuha na kayong startup capital na binibigay ni National Reintegration Program na 100,000. Then ang total winning prizes ko po is 600,000.
600,000
Yes po.
bilang national winner, 600,000. Oh, okay. So pwede nang gamitin pang ano 'yan, pang expansion ng
Startup
salon mo,
capital
no?
po, yes po.
Wow, okay. Pero matanong ko lang, siyempre pag nagpatakbo ka ng salon, meron ka ring mga tauhan. May ini-employ
Yes
ka
po.
rin. Sa ngayon, ilan ang ini-employ mo?
Ngayon po meron na po akong 4 na employee
Mhm.
and 2 assistant po.
Ayan. 4 na employee, 2 assistant. Okay.
Yes po.
Alright. Sige. Pero did you ever imagine na mananalo ka ng
No,
competition na ito?
hindi po. Kasi sumali po ako dito sa Likhang Marino para doon sa top 12 finalist lang.
Mhm.
Once po kasi na pumakapasok ako ng top 12 finalist, automatically meron na ako matatanggap na 100,000 to start a business.
Parang
Kasi
ano, no?
ayoko na po siyang umalis. Ayoko na pong umalis ng Pilipinas.
Aha.
Gusto ko nang mag-umpisa ng kahit maliit lang po negosyo, at yun lang po yung nasa mindset ko noon, and hindi ko naman po ine-expect na makakarating ako ng top 3 and magiging national winner.
Parang parang ang iniisip mo lang noon, Kenneth, na hindi, okay na ako, makuha ko lang yung startup capital. Di ba?
Yes po. Parang
Hindi
ganun
mo
po.
inaakalang ikaw ang magiging national winner.
Magiging national winner, yes po.
Okay. Pero ano bang pangalan ng salon na tinataguyod mo?
Ang pangalan po ng salon ko is Kashmir Magical Touch by Likha ng Marino.
Oh, okay. Ulitin natin, ano pangalan ng salon?
Kashmir Magical Touch
Kashmir.
by Likha ng Marino.
Kashmir Magical Touch by
Opo.
Likha ng Marino. Okay.
Oh,
Wow, talaga naman pero bukod dito sabi mo nga nakukuha sa labas ng bansa, abroad, itong natural ingredient na ginagamit mo. Wala ka bang naiisip na iba pang dito naman local ingredients sa Pilipinas na pwedeng gamitin sa iyong salon?
meron na po mga sa isip ko ngayon, and yun nga po yung pinaplan ko na mag-create ako ng sarili kong own product ng hair treatments.
Mhm.
Like sa organic po, like yung mga virgin coconut oils, kasi marami naman pong supply ng coconut dito sa Pilipinas.
Mhm.
Then yun po yung naiisip ko na aloe vera and coconut oil for the hair treatments.
Mhm. Mhm. Mm.
Then I'm planning to po sa mga trainings, like sa mga hair care po, para maumpisahan ko po yung aking pinaplano.
Ayun, tama nabanggit mo, trainings. Wala ka bang planong bilang part ng social corporate responsibility mo at ng iyong salon na mag-conduct ng mga sabihin na nating trainings at seminars sa pagpapatakbo ng salon?
Yes po, meron na rin po ako mga ina-attend ng ibang trainings. Then ngayon po ay planning to go to for accreditation of TESDA
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
para kasi po ang purpose ko po kaya din ako nag-open ng salon is para doon sa mga kabataan na gustong matutong mag haircuts, then
Mhm, mhm.
tinuturuan ko po sila for free.
Okay. So, pero siyempre balikan ko muna yung experience mo sa cruise ship as a waiter nung nagtatrabaho ka sa cruise ship tapos yung pagbalik mo rito sa Pilipinas and starting a business. Hindi ba naging mahirap yung transition?
Hindi naman po, for me hindi po kasi habang nagwo-work po ako sa cruise ship, ginagawa ko rin po ito daily. May yung mga crew member ko po, kasi masyadong expensive yung haircuts pag sa
Mhm,
salon doon
mhm.
sa cruise, then ako po may baon akong
Oh,
razors.
okay. Alright.
Ako po yung naggugupit sa kanila sa
Okay.
isang pasilyo lang, like
Uh-huh.
that. Kaya parang nung nauwi po ako ng Pilipinas,
Uh-huh.
at wala na akong chance makabalik dahil naoperahan po ako.
Mhm.
Yun po yung inisip ko na magtayo na lang ng small business salon dito sa amin. At nung nagpunta ako ng DMW to file an action fund for medical repatriated, nalaman ko po yung Likhang Marino na po pwede palang may mga programa pala ang gobyerno na ganito para sa mga returnees na OFW
Mhm,
na
mhm.
like Likhang Marino, Likhang
Mhm.
Kababaihan, and now Likha Global.
Yes, yes. Oo, oo. So
Then yun
talagang
po, napakalaking tulong nung program nila para sa mga kagaya naming OFWs na may planong mag-umpisa na iniisip na negosyo para maumpisahan.
mhm, mhm, mhm. So napakaano pala no, parang parang destiny mo na pala ano
Yes po.
itong negosyong ito, itong pagkakapanalo mo. Biro mo hindi mo naman talaga inaakala na papasok ka as a national winner dahil sabi mo nga kanina, makuha mo lang yung startup capital na 100,000 okay na no. Pero
Yes po.
hindi eh. The universe has better plans ano para
Yes
sa iyo,
po.
'di ba? At saka nakuha mo rin yung napakagandang experience while nasa cruise ship ka. Nakuha mo
Opo.
na yung na-hone mo na yung experience mo. At the same time, nakatulong ka pa sa ating mga kapwa OFWs doon by saving a lot of money for them, ha? Dahil,
Yes po.
dahil hindi, napakamahal nga, sabi mo, ng mga salon doon sa mga cruise ships. So, Kenneth, anong gusto mong iparating na mensahe sa ating mga overseas Filipino workers? Sa
Ah,
ating land-based man o sea-based, anong gusto mong iparating na mensahe sa kanila?
sa ating pong mga sea-based po muna na gusto ng mag-for good sa Pilipinas at mag-umpisa ng kanilang negosyo, wag po tayong matatakot umuwi ng Pilipinas. Dahil katuwang po ang government like DMW, OWA, and National Integration Program, meron po tayong programa ng Likhang Marino nito pong ongoing po ngayon ang screening ng Likhang Marino 2026.
Yes. Mhm.
And kailangan lang po nating create ng ating business plan proposal.
Mhm, mhm.
At dapat po, ang qualification po nito is dumating po tayo ng Pilipinas ng December 30, 2021.
Mhm.
At wala po tayong current business and registered business dito sa Pilipinas.
Mhm.
Ang submission po ng Likhang Marino is until June 30, 2026. Kaya sa mga kapwa ko po OFWs na seafarer, sumali na po kayo sa Likhang Marino at baka isa na rin po kayo sa mababago ang buhay kagaya ko at magiging business owner na ng
Yan.
inyong innovative na business.
Yeah. So, okay. So yung Likhang Marino at saka Likhang Global, bukas na yan ano para sa
Yes po.
2026. Okay.
Yes po. Ang Likha Global din po, ito po yung sa mga OFWs na 5 years na pong nasa ibang bansa, more than, at meron silang naiisip na negosyo, pwede po silang sumali sa Likha Global, and ang deadline po ng submission nito is sa June 30 din po, 2026. And ang kagandahan po dito sa Likha Global is yung mga OFW pa lang po nating nasa ibang bansa, at pauwin po sila dito sa Pilipinas para sa competition.
Okay. Ito ang tanong ko, Ken. Kasi ito baka nakarating na rin sa iyo.
Yes po.
Kasi marami na nakakarating sa akin na sabi, nung ibang mga OFWs na nasa ibang bansa, mapa sea-based o land-based, sabi na, uy, hindi totoo yan. Ano lang yan, keme lang yan, yung mga competition na yan, wala naman talaga kayo makukuhang ganansya dyan, gagastos pa kayo. May mga ganun may mga ganun ako narinig na mga komento. Totoo ba yon?
Hindi po. Kasi once po na sumali po kayo at napili kayo ng DMW to compete, all expenses paid po nila, even the hotels, the flight na pauwi sa Pilipinas. And ang kagandahan po doon, once na makapasok po kayo sa top finalist, automatically you will receive 100,000 pesos na ibibigay po kaagad before the awarding ng Likhang Global or Likhang Marino. Then, ang kagandahan po doon sa ating mga finalists na sasali sa Likha Global na matagal nang hindi nakakauwi ng Pilipinas is magkakaroon po sila ng chance na makauwi ng Pilipinas for free, and makakapiling pa po nila kahit panandalian lang yung kanilang pamilya.
Yeah.
Kasi once po na matapos ang competition at meron pa po silang natitirang remaining contracts sa kanilang pinagtatrabuhan sa ibang bansa, is makakabalik pa naman po sila din pag gusto na po nilang mag for good or last contract na po nila, and pwede na po sila mag for good dito at umpisahan yung kanilang business na ipanalo. And once na manalo ka as a Likhang Marino or a Likha Global, hindi pa po doon nagtatapos ang support ng ating National Reintegration Program and DMW. Sinusuportahan ka pa po nila hanggang sa mag-success yung iyong negosyo, and up until now na pa-end na ang aking reign as a Likhang Marino, until now po nakasupport pa rin po sila din. Marami pa po silang plano for me na ganyan para sa ikagaganda pa ng aking
Wow,
negosyo.
ang galing naman. Ibig sabihin, nakuha mo na yung prize money, pero hindi doon natatapos. Hanggang ngayon, naka-assist sila sa'yo to make sure na
Yes po.
magtagumpay
Yes
ang
po.
negosyo mo. Wow.
Yes po, sir.
Talaga?
Even po yung sa past winner ng Likhang Kababaihan na si Sweet Rose, yun po yung siya po ay may mga eco bags na recycled materials. And ngayon po, natutuwa ako kasi naging kaibigan ko din siya, at ngayon po naging successful na yung kanyang business. Nasa DTI Pasalubong Center na rin ng kanyang mga eco bags.
Okay. Wow, talaga ha. So, okay.
Yes po.
Biruin mo yan. Alright. Sige, pero ano naman ang mensahe mo sa DMW at sa National Reintegration Program ng DMW?
Sa DMW at saka sa National Reintegration Program maraming salamat po kasi nagkaroon kayo ng programa na ganito para sa mga seafarer and land-based na OFW, kasi binigyan nyo ng chance na mabuo yung kanilang mga pinapangarap na negosyo, ay hindi lamang din doon sa pagbuo ng negosyo, para hindi na kami umalis ulit ng Pilipinas.
Yan.
At napakalaking tulong po nung binibigay nilang assessment sa amin, mga trainings, livelihood, yun po.
Okay. Sige. At sana itong kasi June 30 pa naman ang deadline nito, di ba? Yung Likhang Marino at Likhang Global for 2026. So matanong ko na rin na Kenneth, paano sila magsasubmit ng kanilang plan competition?
Sa pagsali po sa Likhang Marino, punta lang po tayo sa page ng Department of Migrant Workers or National Reintegration Program. Nandoon po ang guidelines para sa pagsali ng Likhang Marino and Likha Global 2025. Kaya po sa mga sa mga seafarers po na nandito na po sa Pilipinas at yung mga OFW po na nasa ibang bansa pa na land-based, inaanyayahan po kayo na sumali para sumali dito sa competition ng Likhang Marino or Likha Global para maging successful tayo pare-parehas na hindi na natin kailangan umalis pa ng Pilipinas at magkaroon tayo ng sariling negosyo dito sa Pilipinas.
With that, Kenneth, maraming salamat and we wish you all the best sa iyong
Thank you po.
negosyo, and kaisa mo kami. Papanalangin namin na lalo pang mag-expand at dumami ang iyong salon.
Salamat
Yan,
po.
okay. Thank you very
Maraming
much.
salamat din po.
Salamat,
Thank
salamat.
you.
Ayan, okay. Talaga naman po, napaka very inspiring story mula po sa ating national winner ng Likhang Marino 2025 Business Plan Competition. Si Kenneth Kier C. Fernando. Isa siyang waiter before sa isang cruise ship. Okay? At na-repatriate siya, nakabalik siya dito sa Pilipinas at ayaw na niyang bumalik sa ibang bansa, ayaw niya na sumakay ng barko. So he nag-decide siya na magnegosyo na lang. Magsimula ng isang salon, pero kakaiba ang kanyang salon. Hindi siya gumagamit ng mga chemicals, lalo-lalo na sa pag-treat ng mga buhok, kundi organic o non-chemical, organic, galing pa sa abroad, galing pa yata sa Middle East yung ingredient na ginagamit niya. At tinitignan na rin niya kung ano yung mga local ingredients dito sa Pilipinas na natural or organic na pwede na niya rin gamitin sa kanyang salon. At mag-i-expand na siya. Magdadagdag na siya ng mga branches niya. And thank you very much din sa Department of Migrant Workers, sa ating National Reintegration Program ng DMW for again producing itong mga national winners natin ng ito nga pong Likhang Marino. At meron pang Likhang Global. Okay, meron pa, ulitin ko, kasi si Kenneth ay ang winner, national winner for 2025. Sa 2026, meron pa i-declare ulit na ang winner. Aantabayan na natin yan kasi hanggang ngayon po, kasi hanggang June 30, bukas pa ang pagsasubmit ng mga business plan for the Likhang Marino at Likha Global for 2026. So sa mga kababayan natin na nakikinig ngayon, mga overseas Filipino workers, nasa loob ka man ng bansa o nasa labas ka ng bansa, nasa host country ka, ikaw man ay seafarer, ikaw man nagtatrabaho sa cruise ship o sa container or vessel, o ikaw man ay land-based, kung meron kang naiisip na isang business plan na negosyo na gusto mong simulan dito sa Pilipinas, isarin nyo na yan sa DMW, sa National Reintegration Program ng DMW, sa Likhang Marino at Likhang Global. Malay nyo. Sabi nga ni Kenneth kanina, ang plano lang niya talaga makapasok man lang dun sa mga sabihin na nating semifinals, sa top 10. Makuha lang niya yung 100,000 pesos na pangsimula niya o pandagdag niya sa kanyang negosyo. Pero sabi ko nga, the universe has other plans. So hanggang sa makuha niya ang national winner ng Likhang Marino 2025. Who knows, baka kayo na po yung susunod. Alright? Maraming salamat po sa mga sumubaybay dito sa ating programang Global na Tayo. Marami pa sana tayo pag-uusapan, kaya lang talaga we're running out of material time. Pero maraming salamat po sa inyong pagsubaybay. Thank you very much kay Department of Education Undersecretary Malcolm Garma, kay Jason Keith Bonyaga ng ating Crisis Ops, Safety and Assistance for Emergencies o SAFE. And of course kay Kenneth Kier C. Fernando, ang national winner ng Likhang Marino 2025 Business Plan Competition. Sa ating pong Global na Tayo team, ang ating executive producer sa production side, si Ms. Stephanie Vicente, kasama si Drizzle Nanyong. Sa Master Control, si Mr. Milo Junela, at sa Wirecast, si Justin. Antabayan na naman po ang mga susunod na mga programa dito sa Radyo Pilipinas World Service, particular ang ating English Service programs. Muli po, ito ang inyong lingkod, Ray Sampang. Maraming salamat. Hanggang sa susunod. Take care po.
Handog ng Radyo Pilipinas World Service ang programang Global na Tayo. Pag-uusapan, hihimayin, aalamin ang mga isyung pinag-uusapan ng bayan at dadalhin sa pandaigdigang plataforma. Global na Tayo, talakayang hindi lang pambansa, bagkus pang global community pa. Global na Tayo, dito sa Radyo Pilipinas World Service, ang online digital station ng Pilipino saan man sa mundo. Tara na, Global na Tayo.